use your powers for evil.
Evil? Your evil is mine.
Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, and post-nasal surgery, and with me in the TARDIS, once again, everybody's favorite partner in time, and certainly my favorite partner in time, Jesse Jackson.
Charles, I am so glad to see you up. I was thinking a good thought for you. It's been a couple weeks since we've recorded, though based on as episodes have been released, it doesn't feel that way.
Right.
So, yes, I am glad you're doing well post-surgery. I got a CT this week, and I go see my oncologist in a week or two, but everything looks good. The CT technician didn't go, so
yeah, so that's a good sign. Yeah, that's always a good sign.
Absolutely, right. Yes. Yeah, and we've got a couple of fun things to talk about today, don't we?
Yes, we do. So, here we are at episode 115, here in, what is today? August 5th, I believe, 2018. I know it's been a few weeks. Obviously, I've been off a week for surgery. We tried to record beforehand, didn't work out. So apologies for the delay. I'll own that because of my nasal surgery.
Well, and also we're doing some traveling on little miniature trips. The Sunday we were going to travel, I ended up going down to Austin and going to the LBJ Museum, which was fascinating. And
right.
We also, at Austin City Live, a beautiful venue in Austin, Killer Queen was playing, which is a Queen cover band.
Right.
And it was so much fun. Charles, I mean, can you imagine? Yeah. So
that's very ironic you bring that up. So
yes.
We'll talk about that a little bit.
Oh, good.
So today we're going to talk about as we get closer to Jodie Whittaker's first episode as the 13th Doctor, coming up in September, roughly. At least we're hoping for September. We're going to talk about Robot, the very first episode. Very first story with Tom Baker as the fourth Doctor. And this was written by Terrence Dix, directed by Christopher Barry. And this was the first serial in season 12 back in 1974, when yours truly was all of 5 years old. And it's the 75th story overall, so it's kind of a benchmark for the Doctor Who timeline. And it features, of course, the full debut of Tom Baker as the Fourth Doctor. We have Elisabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith. And we have the debut of new companion Ian Marter as Dr. Harry Sullivan. So I'm curious about your thoughts. And Jesse, just what's a general overview of what you thought about this episode? This story?
Yeah, I was really excited to watch this. As we have taken the TARDIS and visited the past, I have become more and more a fan of classic Doctor Who, and so I like this one a lot. I'm going to sound like a broken record. At times, I think classic Who had to stretch it a little too much.
Right.
That because they did very few 2-3-parters. Everything was a 4-parter. And so it felt a little dragged on the third and
right.
fourth section, the series. But I it still was a great episode.
Yeah. Obviously, Tom Baker comes hitting right out of the gate on this one.
Oh, he is.
And we'll talk about that more here in a minute. But yeah, he's just a completely different doctor from John Pertwee, who was, a bit stuffy, but kind of a very charming, charismatic doctor. Baker's doctor is just all over the place. He's essentially like Harpo Marx, if Harpo Marx was a doctor, and could talk, and just was, he has this manic quality to him, and as we talked about when we reviewed Planet of the Spiders, when the third Doctor regenerated, Choji mentioned that the next Doctor might be a little erratic.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that Tom Baker's fourth Doctor certainly qualifies in that area.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this before. I'm a big fan of the musician John Hyatt. No,
Yeah.
I didn't say Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
And,
Wow. I'm shocked.
And a long time ago, my wife had told a friend that she thought Elvis Costello sounded like John Hyatt, and Lisa corrected her, said, "No. John Hyatt,
Yeah.
it's John Hyatt sounds like Elvis
more
Costello."
Elvis Costello. Yeah.
So I want to say Tom Baker.
Elvis Costello's the bigger name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tom Baker reminds me of Matt Smith's early Doctor, but
Right.
it should be reversed the other way, that Matt Smith
Yeah.
was playing a little bit of the Tom Baker.
Right.
But I just love that manicness. He's having a conversation in his head that he's 2 or 3 sentences ahead of everyone else. I just love this.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that you bring up a good point about Matt Smith, that Tom Baker is probably the original Madman in a Box.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So we do have some notable cast members in this one. This is obviously Tom Baker's first story, so they kind of kept the unit continuity going, at least through this episode, to kind of help transition viewers. So we have Nicholas Courtney as the Brigadier appearing in this episode. We also have John Levine, formerly Sergeant Benton, now promoted as Warrant Officer Benton. And we have an actor named Edward Burnham as Professor Kettlewell, who's the professor with a really whacked out hairstyle. He was notable because he played Professor Watkins in a Patrick Troughton story called The Invasion. And he also played the character Florian in the movie To Sir with Love, if you're a fan of that movie. And then we also, the actor, I guess, Alec Lindstedt, who played Arnold Jellicoe. He played, I guess he was notable because he played a character named Sergeant Osgood. Yes, the Osgood that Osgood was named after, in a John Pertwee story called The Damons. So presumably those Osgoods are related somehow, because that Osgood also was a unit officer.
Yes.
So, as opposed to Petronella Osgood from modern day. So just thought I'd bring those up.
Very nice.
All right.
Go
ahead.
The mad scientist looked familiar, and I think part of that is the crazy hairdo.
Yeah.
But that was, I think that was a lot of fun. Him kind of having the crazy hair.
He has this kind of gravity-defying Einstein hair, but he's balding, so it's just kind of like points that stick out. He kind of looks like that the Dilbert boss.
Yes.
A little bit, but that's pretty funny. But yeah, it was obviously, the 1974 idea of crazy mad scientist guy.
Yes.
That invents this robot named K1, which we'll talk about here in a second. All right, so let's dive into our first topic while my voice tries to hold out. And since you brought up something earlier, let's see if you catch the references. You probably will. So our first topic, Bohemian Rhapsody.
All right.
And that is a reference to the very bohemian Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker.
Yes.
So let's talk about Tom Baker's debut story.
He is so manic. As you mentioned, a madman in the box. I love the confusion. He was just immediately charming, immediately fun, immediately sending the message, this is a different kind of doctor.
Right. Making it his own.
Yes. And I think that's important every time you have a new doctor. We get the trying on different clothes, which I think was funny. That was a nice scene. And then they never explain why he has the large scarf.
Right.
It just happens.
It just happened to be in his wardrobe.
Yes. I always think of the poor cosplayers at DragonCon that are in the full Tom Baker woolly jacket and hat and the scarf, and I go, oh, you just must be suffering for your art.
Right.
I assume I've never been to the United Kingdom. I know you and the lovely Lori have.
We've been twice.
So
yes.
It is a little more chilly than it is here in Dallas.
Yes. Generally, it does get warm over there.
Yeah.
I mean, there were our last visit when we went in September. We were pretty warm. So we were walking around in shorts and t-shirts. So it does get warm there, but generally, it's either typical, like a typical English weather would be drizzly, overcast, and slightly damp.
Yeah.
So it does get a little brisk there at times, especially the farther north you get.
Yeah, and this doctor is smart.
Right.
He has a little bit of a smart aleck, or smart arse.
Yeah.
He's just a lot of fun right off the gate, and as you said, it is just even the transition and him bantering back and forth with the doctor, with the Brigadier. You just love him right away. At least I did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, it was now obviously. I had come in watching Tom Baker for the first time as a teenager after watching Davison's run.
Right.
So because my local PBS station, WVIZ, outside of Cleveland, would essentially they only had the rights to both the Tom Baker era and the Peter Davison era for a good for a few years. And so once they went through Davison's, because I caught the tail end of Baker's, then did Davison's, went back, and then they started with Baker again. So I watched Robot right on the heels of Peter Davison's last episode, The Caves of Androzani.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a bit of because you're like, okay, the Doctor has just changed into Colin Baker, but now he's suddenly back to being Tom Baker again. So it was a little bit of a throw for me as a teenager, but I figured it out. So no worries. But what I've realized that in that story is that how much I really love the Doctor trying to find himself, or soon to be herself, and just them trying to get the erraticness of that post-regeneration. I really liked that. I liked it because it kind of gives the actor a lot of fun things to play with. Here we have, the Doctor, he's jumping rope with Harry Sullivan at one point, and then he goes and does the wardrobe changes, and he's coming out in a Viking outfit, and then he comes out the king in a playing card costume, and then as a Perot clown, kind of like David Bowie's Ashes to Ashes video from the early 80s.
Yeah, and it does look like I don't know the character in the opera, right? But the clown and
Pagliacci.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This is more of a Perot style, but
Yeah.
but I get where your point coming from. Yeah, it's just it's yeah. If you've ever watched the David Bowie video "Ashes to Ashes," where Bowie's all made up, and it's basically looks pretty much exactly like how Tom Baker is dressed in this episode.
Yes.
And he so just and the Brigadier is just giving us a disapproval, and then finally he just goes in and comes out as his Fourth Doctor costume, and the Brigadier is like, well, at least that's tolerable. You know, he kind of just like, okay, Leah, that's good, let's go. And yeah, no explanation for it, just something he just randomly grabbed out of the wardrobe room, and that's that scarf defined his Doctor for his entire era.
I remember friend of the podcast, Wendy Hembrock, who does tuning into Sci-Fi TV.
Hi, Wendy.
Yes.
I hope you're listening.
Yes, Wendy once talked about when after Baker was leaving and they knew you were going to get an next Doctor, there was discussion on would they have a scarf, because that had kind of defined the Doctor for so many years.
Right.
And I think that's one of the really cool things about Jodie's costume is there is a little bit of homage to that in her in the costume, in the colors.
Right. Oh yeah, you mean with that kind of striped T-shirt?
Yes.
That she wears?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, it seems like there's a lot of little nods to a number of previous Doctors in her costume.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and the Brigadier finally gets to see the regeneration for the first time. So he hadn't seen the second Doctor change into the third Doctor when we talked about Spearhead from space, if you recall.
Yes.
So here he can actually accept now the concept of regeneration, having seen it with his own eyes. And I think that helps things, at least as far as the Brigadier. He's able to kind of accept it and kind of move the story along, as opposed to just, well, is this the Doctor or isn't it? Pretty much everybody accepts this is the Doctor, but they're having to deal with, well, okay, what is this Doctor now?
Yes.
He's not the same man he used to be. He's kind of like, and he's kind of funny. Baker's funny because he's kind of like, he's laying around a lot. He's got his hat over his eyes, just very like casual about everything. Not quite the aggressive go-getter that Pertwee was.
No.
So definitely differences in style. And but ultimately, he proves his worth, helping to unit with the threat of K1 and Think Tank. And we get that bit at the end where, they go off on traveling in the TARDIS, so kind of giving us the wonder in time and space once again. So I really like that.
Yeah, I did too. I was a little disappointed we didn't see the inside of the TARDIS.
Right.
Though we did get a little bit of the new companion walking in, and you hear him through the...
Oh, I say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So I thought that was very cool.
Yeah. So while we're talking about Harry, let's move on to our second topic, if you want to. Okay, second topic. We are the champions, my friends. And this is a reference to Sarah Jane, Harry Sullivan, and the Brigadier, the Doctor's companions in this episode. So, Jesse, what did you think about our companions in this story?
The more you see Sarah Jane Smith,
Elisabeth Sladen.
Yeah, the more you just love her. At least for me,
she lights up a room, doesn't she?
She does, and she's very smart. And sometimes you talk about trying to choose. You can't pick your favorite children, or you can't pick your favorite. But there is just something. I understand why she is beloved. I love watching her. Anytime there's an episode with her, she's just amazing. There's that great little scene where she goes to the the kind of the scientific community.
Think tank.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the think tank. And, she gets called being a, having some, how did they put it? The bias, chauvinist attitude.
Oh yeah.
Because she,
You heard the winners.
yeah,
The head, the female head
yeah,
of the organization, calls her out for expecting that Jellicoe,
right.
or Arnold Jellicoe, her assistant, is the boss.
Yeah.
And she's like, I didn't expect you to have these chauvinist attitudes, Miss Smith.
Yeah, I thought that was a great moment. She was smart. She knew what was going on. She cares about the robot.
Right.
And I like that. She has a heart. I think that is another trait that often companions remind the Doctor of the humanity. It's one of the reasons why, we've said in the past, Amy has said you should never travel alone. So, yeah, I was just really happy with that. I did not get a big impression on the guy companion.
Harry.
Yeah, so I'll have to kind of wait and see when we get to
he gets more to do in later in season 12.
Okay.
But this is more of his introductory.
Yeah.
Because Harry's introduced as the unit's doctor, the one tasked with kind of making sure the doctor is okay.
Right.
And obviously it's his first experience with an alien, with the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Harry seems to come from this very kind of, well, I say old chap, and or old girl, or the very kind of like posh, little elite type of British officer, and so this kind of experience kind of brings him down to earth a little bit. It makes him more human over the course of season 12, which I like.
The other thing I thought of is when Sarah Jane reminds the Doctor, you're still unit scientific advisor. I thought of the Matt Smith going, I had a job.
Yeah.
I worked for unit. You had a job? Yes. Why wouldn't I have had a job? That made me think of that.
Yeah. And you brought up Sarah Jane. Sarah Jane, one of the things I really love about Sarah Jane in these classic episodes is when we get to see her actually being an investigative reporter.
Yes.
And because essentially she's the Lois Lane of the Doctor Who universe.
Yes, he is. Well said.
And the one that kind of doesn't mind risking her life to get the story. She's more concerned about like trying to uncover what people are trying to keep secret. And I think that makes a very fascinating character. That's one of the reasons I probably always like Lois Lane as a character.
Yeah.
And Sarah she essentially infiltrates. She does get the pass from the Brigadier to go investigate the National Institute for Advanced Scientific Research, aka think tank. And she tries to get a handle on what's going on and basically uncovers through her own persistence that they do have this large robot named K1, which thankfully she's smart enough to go, hey, Brigadier, they've got this robot. We might want to go check this out. It might be important to what's going on. All these break-ins.
And I really like the fact that, one of the reasons why I loved Martha as a companion is I felt like her being a doctor, she kind of brought something to herself. She had
a skill set.
Skill, yes.
Yeah.
And so, having her be this reporter and being smart, having this thing, I love that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, what did you think of the Brigadier in this episode?
You know,
Nicholas Courtney. I think he's always fun to watch.
I think he's always fun to watch.
And he plays off so well off of each of the doctors, no matter what doctor it is.
Yes, and so Charles, I have to admit that I'm a little sentimental anytime I see Sarah Jane Smith. I think that Elisabeth Sladen isn't with us anymore, so I'm always a little sad.
Right.
And I also think that the Brigadier isn't with us anymore, and I think of that scene in the Doctor Who episode where the nurse says every night he would put out a whiskey hoping you would join him.
Right.
And now then he knows he never would. Now, I realize in real life that the actor did guest star
Nicholas Courtney.
Yeah, on the Sarah Smith Adventures.
Sarah Jane Adventures. Yeah. So there was a very touching little 2-part episode where the Brigadier, we got to see him in his last adventure, really. Yeah. And it's very nice to see those two interacting.
Yeah.
Again. And
I've just always have a little bit of sadness that
we're going to need to go through some of those at some point.
Yeah, because I have not watched any of those.
Yeah, so we should do that.
Yeah, and when I always think of it, would have been nice to have him in a small little cameo.
Right.
But then I'm sentimental on any former companion.
Right.
The Doctor having to embrace that history and showing them on the show.
Yeah. And the Brigadier has this weird status because he wasn't really like an official companion.
Yeah.
Because he didn't travel with the Doctor.
Right.
He was just a supporting character, a prominent, one of the main supporting characters on the show.
Right.
And so, it's more of a supporting cast member. But because he was so predominant and because he's interacted with so many of the early Doctors, that he just has this profound legacy, which I think is really interesting.
Absolutely, and with his daughter continuing, which
with Kate Stewart, I think that's great that that legacy is continued into the Matt Smith era and Peter Capaldi era.
Yeah, she is an amazing.
And hopefully the Jodie Whittaker era.
Yes, I love when Unit is there. She is I think a truly great modern part of the mythos of the Doctor. Right,
and I think it's a kind of a credit that a lot of fans were very easy to accept Kate Stewart.
Yes,
because of her, she was an established character, and that. The daughter of the Brigadier, and it made sense that she might take over Unit after her father. So,
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Let's move on to our third topic. She's a killer queen. Killer. So this is there's that part here. Let's see that. So this is Hilda Winters, K1, and Think Tank. And as you probably guessed, the theme of this week's is Queen songs, because
and we did not plan that.
I did not plan that. I totally come up with these separately.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty. And there's a good line in Killer Queen where it talks about being dynamite with a laser beam, which I think is kind of appropriate for this as well.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the mad scientists and the mads in this episode. Hilda Winters, Kettlewell, Think Tank, and the robot K1. So, Jesse, what are your thoughts on our baddies for the story?
I felt I understand I was probably asking too much, but I wanted them to give a shout out to Isaac Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics.
Right.
They kind of slightly talked about that with Prime Directive.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you thought of that too as you're watching it, being a fellow science fiction geek.
Maybe they figured, this was 1974. Maybe they figured it wouldn't be as predominant yet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what year Asimov came up with those laws. I think it was the 60s.
I think they were pretty early. I will ask.
That's all right.
Google.
We'll keep talking.
Yeah, absolutely. But I liked that the robot was conflicted. I think that one of the things that Asimov in his short stories talked about was that he believes a robot would be a tool, and a tool is not neither evil nor good. It is just a tool, and it's the people that using them. And I think this stresses very strongly that once again we have, and I also love the complexity of I'm trying to save the world by being evil. You know.
Well, here's the thing: the true villains, as we talked about this, that true villains don't see themselves as being evil.
Right.
They see themselves as the good guys.
Yes.
The heroes of the story. But the problem is that their actions speak differently. Mm-hmm. And in Winters, the group obviously has some very fascist overtones. I mean, they have kind of very militaristic jackets. They have with armbands, of course. And their whole attitude is that, we can make better decisions for humanity because we're smarter.
Yes.
So it's essentially if where the scientists who feel that they're smarter than everybody else are rising up and say, oh, hey, because we're smarter, therefore you should be looking to us for guidance and for order. But the problem is the Winters just wants to power trip over this for whatever reason. We don't get a whole lot of backstory with her, but because again, this is the 70s, she's a very one-note villain.
Yes.
But she essentially has this. As the story progresses, we just find out how crazed she is, and just this megalomaniacal she is. And they go through this whole process of setting up launch codes this countdown to essentially send the world into nuclear war. And so there's this obviously the big ticking clock that happens that goes on and off and on and off very frustratingly. But it makes for a very tense final episode, I think.
Absolutely. By the way, according to Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is never wrong, the 1942 short story Runaround, which I remember, is when he first quoted the three laws. So
they've been around since the 40s. Okay.
Yeah, and he also, I remember reading in his autobiography that he never minded people using them because he believes that using them helped build a better story.
Right.
Because it stops the evil robot, taking over. And so he was always glad that people used it.
Okay, that's cool.
Very good.
So while we're on the subject of K1, there's one of the things that we haven't really talked about is the kind of heavy King Kong overtones with K1 and Sarah Jane.
I am.
Did you kind of pick up on that?
I did not, and now that you say it, I go. Yeah. This is like one of those where
even to the point where he's actually picking up when he's all giant size. He picks up Sarah Jane and he's kind of carting her around and puts her on top of a building.
This is one of those things where you can't see an image in a a painting, and then once someone points it to you, you go, how did I miss that? Well done, Charles. Yes.
Did I just blow your mind?
Yes, you did. That is perfect. Yes.
Yeah. So there are definitely some King Kong illusions.
Yes.
And Sarah Jane obviously feeling empathetic for K1. Everybody's kind of looking at her like, look, it's just a machine. It doesn't have feelings.
Yeah.
But Sarah Jane's kind of picking up on its conflicted programming. And maybe she's projecting a little bit, but she's one of the very few that actually is kind to the robot, and the robot actually picks up on this.
Yeah, and I think she is a kind soul. Mm-hmm. she understands how you could this robot is being manipulated, and she does have that the feeling almost of this was a waste and this shouldn't have happened. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So and it's kind of just I found it interesting that the robot just is so determined to protect her to the point where he's willing to go ahead and say, well, the rest of humanity sucks, but I'm going to protect you because you were nice to me.
Yes.
So we'll just hang out here in the bunker while everybody else dies. And you're okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of funny.
Yes.
And then real quick, Kettlewell, who we kind of are introduced as this kind of very scatterbrained professor, kind of has a little bit of a dark side, as we find out. We find out that he is fully aware of K1 being used by Think Tank for nefarious purposes.
Yes.
So were you kind of surprised by Kettlewell kind of being a bit of a bad guy?
I was, and it is, I did not feel like this was a cliche scientist, being the bad guy.
Right.
I was okay with, as you said, it's a one-note villain because this is the 70s.
Right.
But at least, as we talked about, they are, there at least is a reason behind what they're doing this. So,
right.
Yeah, I was very happy.
Yeah. And just obviously things work out at the end. The robot who, because of the Brigadier thinking that, I could use its own weapon against it, causes it to grow to giant size, so the doctor has to come up with this metal-eating virus that is able to disintegrate the robot.
Yes.
And through some kind of cheesy flailing, it goes round and round going, and then eventually taking out.
Right.
And the world is saved. But so we're kind of left. The doctor, we go back to unit. The doctor is told by Sarah Jane that the Brigadier wants him to kind of hang out because he's been invited to Buckingham Palace for dinner. The doctor isn't really down with that. He's got better things to do, got time and space ahead of him, all kinds of adventures. And so he convinces Sarah Jane to go off with him in the TARDIS. Harry shows up. Harry gets coaxed in as well. They take off. And the Brigadier is kind of left going, well, I guess I'll just let them know you'll be a little late.
Yeah.
And that's our story.
Absolutely.
So anything else about the story before we move on?
It was just really well done. Like I said, I would have liked it to be a little
faster paced.
Yeah, but overall, very, very cool.
Yeah. One little tip I will suggest if you haven't watched this story before, if you want to kind of speed things up, anytime you get the robot's point of view, where you're looking kind of in that kind of grid visual pattern, and it's just kind of fast forward through those parts.
Okay, very nice.
You won't miss anything.
Okay.
Because it moves so slowly, and it'll help speed up the episode a little bit for you. Just a little tip that I picked up on as a kid that I kind of do, because you can kind of follow along what's going on a much quicker pace, and it doesn't really detract from the story. It'll help speed things up a little.
How did you watch this on the new Blu-ray?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it looked pretty good. This wasn't it wasn't like it had already been remastered for DVD.
Okay.
But and this wasn't one with any special audio. This story. Some of the other stories do have new remastered audio for Blu-ray.
Okay.
And so it looks great. It does look good, and it's definitely, if you don't like, if you're wondering to invest in the season Blu-ray sets, I would, because it carries over all the previous extras from the DVDs, plus a few more documentaries and stuff. So if you don't already own the DVDs, I would recommend getting the Blu-ray set.
Very nice. Good.
So so it's mixed. Yeah, just came out not too long ago, and hopefully they'll do more because I obviously would love to get all the rest of Doctor Who in season sets.
Yes.
It would save a little space in my collection area.
Yes.
Needless to say, because essentially the one Blu-ray set equals 5 of the season 12 DVDs. So I was able to, like, right there just save 4 DVDs of space.
Very nice.
So hopefully we'll get more. All right.
Good.
Anything else about this story?
No, I like I said, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yep.
It is. I know that our lovely co-host Karen, this is her favorite Doctor, and so like I said, he is charming from the beginning.
Yes. All right. Do you have any favorite lines of the episode?
There is a famous line that I smiled a lot when you heard him say it, where Sarah Jane Smith says, "Doctor, you're being childish."
That's one of my all-time favorite lines.
And he says, "Well, of course I am. There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes." And that is truly one of the most famous, iconic Doctor Who lines ever spoken.
Yes, I totally agree. It's one of my all-time favorite Doctor Who quotes.
Yeah.
I use it constantly.
Yes.
In conversation. So
yeah.
It is definitely iconic. I love that one. All right. I liked an early exchange between Harry Sullivan and the Doctor, where Harry's trying to coax him into being looked at, and Harry says, "No, Doctor, I'm the Doctor, and I say you're not fit." The Doctor replies, "You may be a doctor, but I'm the Doctor." The definite article, you might say.
And that has been redone many times, including on this last, the final episode in Capaldi's run, and in the Christmas special from, the first Doctor saying it. So yes, the original article. I thought that was. I thought it was.
It was also done in the Five Doctors by the replacement first Doctor of that story, Richard Herndl.
Right.
Where he says, "I'm the original," you might say.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the Brigadier going, just once, I'd like to meet an alien menace that wasn't immune to bullets.
That is a great Brigadier line. That was one that I picked as well.
Yeah.
And last one I have is an exchange between the Brigadier, the Doctor, and Harry, where the Brigadier says, "Believe me, Doctor, the place is impregnable." The Doctor replies, "Never cared much for the word impregnable. Sounds a bit too much like unsinkable." And Harry replies, "What's wrong with unsinkable?" The Doctor replies, "Nothing, as the iceberg said to the Titanic. Glug, glug, glug."
Yes, and the physical humor he does with that.
Yes, as he sinks to the Jeep.
Yes, that was so charming.
He totally sold that joke.
Yeah, and then, of course, this is... we get one of our favorite moments, at least from my perspective, one of my favorite moments, I won't put words in your mouth, of the Doctor checking him or herself out in the mirror for the first time.
Right.
And I love any time that happens, when the Doctor says, "A new body is like a new house. Takes a little bit of time to settle in. As for the physiognomy, well, nothing's perfect. Have to take the rough with the smooth. Mind you, I think the nose is a definite improvement. As for the ears, well, I'm not too sure. Tell me, quite frankly, what do you say to the ears?" Yeah. I just love that the Doctor is kind of testing and looking at this the same way you and I would test, I've tried on a new suit. How does it look on me? This new body. And that's always just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I'm sure hopefully we'll get more of that with Jodie Whittaker's doctor in her first episode.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other quotes?
Nope.
All right. So what's your rating for this one?
I give this 8 TARDIS keys in my shoe.
Nice. Obvious place.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm a little more generous because I really love Tom Baker in the story. So I give it 8.5 jelly babies because we get the introduction of the jelly babies, of at least Tom Baker's jelly babies. They had appeared a couple times before, but this is obviously Baker's, one of his iconic props in his Doctor. So give respect to the jelly babies in the story.
It is. And
Would you like a jelly baby?
Yeah, I love that, right?
Yeah.
It was just so much fun.
Like even when he offers it to Harry, he kind of uses it to throw somebody off guard for a moment, and it's like, oh, okay, well maybe this doctor isn't as bad as I may think, or
and also
or to distract. Yes.
He also, did you see he took half of the Jelly Belly back because he didn't like his answer? Yeah.
Yep.
Great stuff.
Great. Yep. All right. So, do you have any kind of reverse the polarity by any chance, or no?
So yes, I'm guessing which one you're going to pick.
Okay.
And so I am going to guess you're picking the Christmas Invasion. For all the similarities of it's a new doctor, kind of a little bit out of his mind, the having to adjust. So that's the one I'm going to pick that you're picking.
Okay. Well, you would be incorrect.
Oh, dang it.
But that was a good choice, though.
Okay.
We're kind of close in that era.
Okay.
So I'm going to reverse the polarities back to 2005 with the story Dalek, which was
I almost picked that one.
Was that a runner-up?
That was on my runner-up. Yes.
Okay, so you kind of get where I'm coming from then.
Yes.
So this is the 6th episode of Series 1, 2005, written by Robert Shearman. And in the story, I'll try to get through this quickly. Drawn by a distress signal, the Ninth Doctor and Rose arrive in a massive underground bunker near Salt Lake City, Utah in 2012, filled with alien artifacts. They get discovered by soldiers, taken to the bunker's owner, Henry Van Statten, and Rose is offered a tour of the facility by Adam Mitchell, a young guy who buys and catalogs artifacts for Van Statten. Van Statten shows the Doctor the pride of his collection, which he calls the Metaltron. Inside a secure vault, the Doctor is shocked to discover the Metaltron is actually a Dalek, which he thought was all wiped out during the Time War. Now, this Dalek is very weak and unable to break its bonds, but when the Doctor attempts to destroy it, Van Statten orders his guards to restrain the Doctor. Van Statten proceeds to invasively and violently study the Doctor's body to learn more about his alien physiognomy. Meanwhile, Adam takes Rose to see the Dalek, and here's where the main connection to the story robot is, because Rose takes pity on the weakened creature and touches its casing, kind of like Sarah Jane did with K1. And the Dalek promptly absorbs her DNA and the remnants of the time energy she's accumulated from traveling in time, and is able to re-energize itself. It escapes its bonds, kills several guards, and connects to the internet, where it learns the fate of the Daleks and realizes that it's the last surviving member of its race. With no other purpose, it proceeds to target and exterminate all non-Dalek life forms. The vault's locked down, and while Adam escapes, Rose is trapped within. Van Statten is forced to release the Doctor to help stop the Dalek, but the Dalek refuses to cooperate and continues killing everybody left in the vault. The Dalek tries to kill Rose, but it can't, having found compassion embedded in itself from Rose's DNA. So again, it's kind of like with K1, it refuses to kill Rose or Sarah Jane in the case of K1.
Yeah, perfect.
The Dalek wants to kill Van Statten, but Rose instead convinces it to spare his life. She follows the Dalek as it destroys the roof, exposing the area to natural sunlight that the Dalek basks in. The Doctor arrives and prepares to kill the Dalek, but Rose stops him, convincing him that the Dalek has developed emotions, kind of like Sarah Jane's pleas to protect K1. However, The Dalek's unable to cope with all these emotions and asks Rose to order its own self-destruction to end its pain. Rose reluctantly agrees, and the Dalek shortly implodes thereafter. Afterwards, after regrouping with Van Statten's staff, they learn his assistant is taken over and will have Van Statten's memories wiped from the vault, while planning on filling in the entire bunker with cement to prevent other problems. And with Adam having no job because of all this, Rose offers Adam a chance to travel with her and the Doctor. The end.
Nice.
We know how well
yes,
that worked out.
We do.
So well done, Rose, for that one.
Yes.
But she thought he was cute, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So, a lot of obviously that kind of same overtone where you have the female companion feeling empathy for a creature.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we do have some viewer mail or listener mail to catch up on. So Jesse, do you have those?
I do. Holly sent us.
We have two from Holly, one from Paul.
All right, so I'll do one from Holly. You can do one from Paul, and then I'll do the second one from Holly.
That sounds great.
As we produce on the air.
Yep.
Hi guys. As for Gray in the Torchwood audios, he hasn't shown up yet so far, so he's still in deep freeze.
And this is where she's talking about Robot.
Yes.
Yes.
Robot. Forgot how much I missed the unit episodes and having the Brigadier there. He also doesn't seem too frazzled by the Doctor's regeneration into a new face. At least with the Fourth Doctor, he seemed to get over the regeneration sickness a little quicker than some of his later regenerations. The Brigadier should know that Sarah Jane is going to investigate and probably get caught, and to not believe her working girl line. I'm going home to get some rest is just a ruse, and that she's going to head back to wherever the problem is that they are investigating and dig a little deeper. Happens to the best of almost all the companions. They like the Doctor, to paraphrase Richard Kipling's The Elephant Child, has a saleable curiosity. Yes, yeah. Richard Kipling. Got to love the Doctor's scarf. Great for picking up evidence and hiding it at least for a little while.
Yep.
The Doctor tried to reason with the robot reminds me a little bit of a later Fourth Doctor episode, Shada, where the Doctor tries and is successful in reasoning with a ship's computer. The story, not so much. 5 rounds rapid from unit doesn't seem to be helping all that much in taking the robot down. Unit's officers can hit their target, but just not the right kind of ammo, it seems. As for the robot itself, it kind of reminds me of a cross of the robot from Lost in Space and any kind of Japanese anime that has a robot in it. That's actually a very good description, Holly.
I think so, too.
All in all, not too bad of an episode and a good introduction to the Fourth Doctor and the adventures that we'd have with him in the upcoming years. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thanks, Holly. And we did get some also from feedback from Paul Beck, Paul from Australia, who also writes in about Robot. Paul writes in and says, "Hi, Charles and Jesse. As Tom Baker is my doctor, I've got to tell you I really like this story. I thought it was really smart to have an Earth-based plot to give viewers a chance to acclimate to the new incarnation, and not one alien to be found, just some nasty scientists out to take control of the world with their wayward robot. Sarah Jane will always be one of the best companions. It was so good to watch her again. She looks so young. I know, right?
Yes.
Time is not fair, is it?
No.
Never is. One thing I noticed watching the story is how fast Time Lords can change their wardrobe. I wish I could change that fast when shopping for clothes. Well, think about it. The Doctor's a superhero, so of course he can change clothes fast.
Absolutely.
Right. The other thing that intrigued me was Professor Kettlewell's hair. That is a serious lifestyle choice. ! I totally agree. I'd love to know what product he uses to keep that hair gravity defying like it is.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of Aquanet. Sending you both my kindest regards as always, Paul. P.S. Where to next, Charles? ?
Well, hold that thought.
Hold it. Yeah,
Yes.
Just wait for it.
Yes.
We'll get there because we have another older email from Holly back on July 21st.
Yes. Hey, Charles and Jesse. Just wanted to send a quick email about both the trailers we got this past week for the next season of Doctor Who. I like them both. Can't wait to get to know the new companions more and how they will interact with the Doctor. The trailer that we got from Comic-Con, where we get to see and hear the Doctor in action. Wish we could have gotten an air date for the next series. I agree with that.
Yeah,
but I'm
totally.
really looking forward to it. Love the new artwork that has been released, and I also like the design of the sonic screwdriver. Kind of reminds me of the organic look and feel of the TARDIS from the first couple of series with the 9th and 10th Doctor. I'll wrap it up here.
All right. Thanks, Holly.
Yes, Holly, as always, I appreciate you.
Yeah, because now last time we had talked, we got to see the teaser. We talked about the teaser.
Yes.
But thankfully at San Diego Comic-Con, they released the first trailer.
Yes.
So, Jesse, what were your thoughts on that first Series 11 trailer?
I am already in love with the new Doctor. I love her brilliant.
Yep.
I love the, will you be my new friend?
You're right.
It just...
If it asked you really, really, really nicely,
yes.
Would you be my new best friend?
Yes.
Are you in? You're in.
I am just, and I'm easy. I'm going to be in no matter what.
Right.
But I am hoping that we get a lot of new Doctor Who fans or people that have gone away and come back, because I think this is just going to be special. I have such high expectations about these stories. I think they're trying to do right. We're only getting 10 episodes, but they're going to give the very best.
Right.
10.
And then we get the Christmas special. So we're essentially getting, we'll get 11 as opposed to like the normal 14 or 13 we've been getting.
Yeah. I am just so excited. Seeing this made me just giggle and just like, this is going to be awesome. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't get to learn much. I mean, we see some alien landscapes. We see, the Doctor in corridors and very shadowy environments. But generally, it's just an overall feel. And it looks like one of the stories is going to take place in the 1950s because there's at least the setting looks very 1950s, like a 1950s army barracks, and there was almost like a motel lodge that appeared based on the cars looked very 1950s.
Yes.
So we'll see how that factors in, as opposed to obviously alien planets and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to it. I liked what I saw of Jodie Whittaker. Would have liked to have seen more. Would have liked to have heard the companions more.
Right.
In that first trailer. Hopefully we'll get another trailer where we get to hear that soon.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think it's very promising. And I know that there's a lot of toxic fandom out there right now regarding Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor. Hopefully, I'm hoping that a new generation of fans rises up and tunes in to kind of like drown out that toxicity. So, I want everybody, like, if you're enthusiastic about the upcoming season of Doctor Who, please share that enthusiasm. Get that out there as much as you can, because that we need that positivity right now, I think.
I totally agree, Charles. I do not understand why anyone should be you should be excited about a new Doctor. And it just seems I just don't understand this negativity, especially after seeing the little introduction they did when she was, before she was on the panel, stopping and asking the little girl that's cosplaying as her, how do I get to Hall H? She is just amazing. And
Now there's always, with every new doctor, there's always this kind of uproar.
yeah,
Well, I don't like this guy. He's not like the old doctor, and I've liked him better. Why can't we have him again? Or why can't we bring David Tennant back, or whatever?
yeah,
But that kind of attitude. Um, but and eventually some of that goes away
right.
as people come. So I'm hoping that this will dissipate as Jodie continues and proves herself, as I'm sure she will. I have no doubt that she will.
Absolutely.
Based on what I've seen, I think she seems more than up to the task. And as long as the stories are good, I have no doubt.
Yeah, and and I've seen a few people talking about they thought that Peter Capaldi was not served well the stories, and I just don't agree with that at all. I guess I'm just too much of an optimist. I just have loved. Yes, there are individual episodes that we go, that didn't work as much. But
Right.
overall, this is such a wonderful time to be a Doctor fan.
Right. Yeah, I agree, and hopefully this storm shall pass.
Yes.
And again, I hope it brings a new generation of fans that maybe people that wouldn't ordinarily check out Doctor Who might be intrigued by the idea. So here's hoping. So
Absolutely.
let's stay positive, guys. I think we can all use a little more positivity right now.
Absolutely.
So I don't mean to soapbox here, but hopefully I'm not out of line saying that.
No, and I think that you and I are going to do everything we can to keep that positivity.
Yeah,
going.
and we're not going to sugarcoat it. If there's something wrong, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
We're not going to just give everything an automatic pass, but it's okay to be a little optimistic now.
It is, and
there's nothing wrong with that.
And to go in there hoping to see greatness, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what we want to go in there.
Yeah, you want to feel hopeful about a new Doctor, don't you?
At
least I do. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a crazy concept. I know, hope.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, maybe I'm old-fashioned. I don't know. All right. So now we had Paul asking what we're going to talk about next time on Next Stop Everywhere. So I thought I'd mention that next time on Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to talk about the twin dilemma.
Ooh.
And this is Colin Baker's first story from 1984, the last story of season 21, because they took one of Peter Davison's last stories and gave it to Colin Baker to kind of give him a introduction before breaking, and it's not exactly well regarded in Doctor Who circles. So there's some very controversial bits that we'll talk about, I'm sure. If you haven't, Jesse, you haven't watched this story before, have you?
No, we haven't.
Yeah, so there's some things I'm sure you'll have some thoughts on. But, we're going to talk about the twin dilemma because obviously this is one of the post-regeneration stories we haven't covered yet.
Okay.
And we'll see how it goes. I don't mean to – I know it's kind of weird to kind of shift from that optimistic tone down to the twin dilemma. But, it's – we'll see. I mean, because there are some good things about this story, I think. But it's a very odd story.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. So we'll talk about that and leave it on a mysterious note.
All right.
So that's what we're going to talk about next time and Next Step Everywhere for episode 116.
Perfect.
And in the meantime, if you'd like to be like Holly and Paul, Jesse, where could they reach us on the interwebs?
Well, you can reach us on Twitter at NextStopSMG. You can send us an email at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. Go to our Facebook page, like that. You can post information there. So, Charles, how about yourself? Where can they reach you?
Yeah, they can reach me at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. Shout out to Karen. Facebook, of course, at Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. Or, my blog of geeky things.
damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about Doctor Who, Next Stop Everywhere, and Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, all kinds of comic book and sci-fi news. Just posted some news about Patrick Stewart returning to the world of Star Trek.
Yes,
yesterday.
I saw that.
That was big news yesterday.
It is.
So if you'd like to read more on that, I have all the details up on my blog. All kinds of comic book sci-fi news and news about my other podcasts that I do for Southgate Media Group, including Titan Talk, the Titans podcast that I do with a certain Jesse Jackson.
Yes.
Where we're talking about the Titans as we get ever closer to the debut on DC Universe digital service.
Yes.
Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast they do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, obviously. And the Phantom Zone podcast they do with Karen Lindsay, who soon to be joining Next Stop Everywhere for Series 11.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Very excited about that.
And we're already making plans on that as
Good.
I emailed Jesse.
Yes. Shh. Top secret.
Oh, top secret.
Top secret.
Can't talk about that.
Yes.
Plans within plans.
Yes.
All right. So anything else, Jesse? You have a quote to lead us out.
I do. Oh, and you can reach me.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Jesse.
That's
Go ahead.
okay. Jesse Jackson at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can hear me at Set Listing Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast. I just was on a ridiculous rock record review podcast talking about a Linda Ronstadt CD. So I'm continuing to still podcast away. But always,
You gotta leave some for the rest of us, you know.
Yes, I know. And Charles and I appreciate if you would go to iTunes to rate and review Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, because it's how people find us. And we want that to get our biggest audience as possible as we're getting into the fall and new Doctor Who.
And we should also mention that our Facebook page ran right through our 200 limit thanks to the efforts of a certain Jesse Jackson.
Well, I was trying.
Yeah, so Jesse went after everybody he could find.
Yes.
And so we're definitely over the mighty 200 as we start our climb toward the mighty 300. So
yes.
If you haven't already liked us on Facebook, yeah, please do so.
Absolutely.
Or Twitter, obviously. Next stop, SNG. Yeah. All right. So what's our quote leading out?
There's a lot of things you need to get across the universe. Warp drive, wormhole, refractors. You know the thing you need most of all? You need a hand to hold.
Very nice.
Thank you.
All right.
And we're here to hold your hand.
Yep. I want to hold your hand.
Absolutely. Charles,
so, yes,
it is
Jesse?
always a blast talking Doctor Who with you.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Listeners, we just love you. Keep sending us feedback. And, Charles, take us away.
Yeah, well, just everybody come on back for episode 116 as we talk about the Twin Dilemma. Colin Baker's first story. It's going to be interesting. Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.